Okay, just checking on the stream. Let's see. Check on the audio here. So yeah, sorry about my voice. It's a little hoarse with all the kind of cold weather going around. It's not helping. Okay, so anyone just tell me if you need me to change anything with the audio. Let me know if it sounds good. Okay. And I'm just gonna check on some other things while getting kind of some finished setup. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Today I'm gonna be going through with you guys getting started with Git, specifically GitHub. So for those of you who are unaware, GitHub is Git is a version control system. So it's a way of managing your projects, whether you're working individually or collaboratively with a team. It's a good way of having a history of sort of all of your work on your development and your projects. So first thing is first, I'm going to need you, if you haven't already done so, to go to github.com and create a account. And as you can see, I've already created mine. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go and remove something off of my settings that's going to allow me to go through a certain setup process with you guys. So just go ahead and create an account if you haven't already. Okay, so hopefully you guys are done. If not, you can of course pause the stream. You can, you should have an account. And so once you do, I would like you to, you can download the Git Bash if you're on Windows. This is basically kind of an imitation of a bash shell. So the Git Bash, is a bash shell really, and it's going to allow you to use the same commands that you would normally use on a Unix system. And if you're not on Linux, as you can see, I'm running Linux right now through VirtualBox, which is down here. So if you're on Windows or something else, then you can always, of course, use whatever tools you would like, but I would highly recommend just downloading Git Bash. And there is a link in the description for Git downloads, and you can use that, and it will take you directly to the spot. What we'll do is, if you're using Git Bash, you'll launch that, and if you're using Linux, you will simply launch the terminal. Also, if you're using Linux and you haven't gotten this yet, you can install Git, I believe, with the sudo apt-get install Git, and of course mine is going to tell me that I already have it. Yeah, Git is already installed, the newest version. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go through some basic setup with you guys, and I'm going to go over how to add an SSH key to your computer and your account so that you can validate or verify that it is you actually making the changes. So this is going to be kind of a run through at the beginning, and after that I will go and explain more about Git itself. So first things first, for creating the key, I actually had to write this down because this is kind of a tedious process, but it's one that you go through one time and one time only, generally. So first we need to generate an SSH key, and this is going to be with the following command. You can just copy it as I'm typing it. Okay, so what this is it runs the SSH keygen tool, and the flags here, of course, some of them are pretty obvious, like RSA is the encryption type, -B, this is how many bytes, and of course your email here is for the C file. So if we run that, okay, so give me a second, I missed something. Alright. Okay, I believe that's a capital C. Okay, yeah, capital C, I'm sorry about that. And now it will say generating public/private RSA key pair, and it's going to take it a minute to do so, but once it does, it's going to ask us where we want to store this file. This is our actual key, and you can just press enter, and that will store it in the default directory. Of course, I already had one, so I would like to override it. So I can say yes. And then you can enter a passphrase if you would like, or empty for no passphrase. So I'm going to say no passphrase for this one, and then enter again. Now it's going to give us this. Now you would like to pay attention to this part. It tells you the key fingerprint is all of this. So I'm going to copy that entire line. Actually, I might want to go to edit and copy first. And at the same time, I'm sorry, you guys can't see this at all. So yeah, I'm gonna edit that a little bit so that you can see it better. I'll go through the commands really quick again. Just up my scale factor here. Let's up it a little bit more. Alright. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that. I'm going to go back through these commands really quickly. Okay. Alright, so this is the command that we want to use at the beginning. SSH keygen, you want to pass in all those arguments and your email there for the C, and this is going to generate the public and private RSA key pair, and then after which it will ask you to enter the file to save it in, and just hit enter, and then that will save it there. Of course, I had to overwrite one that already existed. Then it will ask you to enter a passphrase if you'd like to, which I did not, so I left mine empty. Then it will tell you that that has been created and saved in the following file. Now it will tell you your key fingerprint is this, so you want to select and copy this entire thing. So I'm going to do so now. Copy. And now what we're going to want to do is add this SSH key to what's called the SSH agent. So to do so, we have to ensure that it's running, and I'll do that by typing eval SSH agent -s. That's going to tell us the agent process ID right there. So now we know it's running, and I'm going to run the SSH add, and I want to add the same file that we saved above. Of course, if you have the default location, it will be very similar to mine. SSH ID RSA. So that's going to add that that to your SSH agent. Now we need to add this to GitHub. our key itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cd let me bring this up some. Okay, so that you guys can see it better. Alright, so after running this command ssh add and adding that SSH key to the SSH agent, I need to add it to my GitHub account. Now, where do we find this key? We find it in the .ssh folder, which is in our home directory. And currently I'm in my home directory, so if I do list all, you'll see there is a SSH folder right here, and it is hidden. So let's cd into that, change directory, and once again I'm going to list. Now you'll see there's an id rsa.pub. Now this is the file that we want to copy the contents. So if you go into that rsa.pub using less, then you can see there's all of this. You can just select all with your edit menu up here, and then you can copy. Now I'm going to press Q to exit and less, and I'm going to go over to GitHub. So on your GitHub, if you click your profile up here, go to settings, and then in settings you'll see SSH keys. You can add an SSH key right here. We'll give it a title. So in this case it's like GitHub. You can follow my naming convention, or you can create your own. You can see I had done this before, so I'm going to create mine for the Linux Mint virtual machine that I'm currently using, and we'll just paste that in there. Now since I was in less, it copied that end part there, and the idrsa.pub, we do not want that, so that should be it. You know it's the key when you see the top part starts with SSH RSA. So if I add key, it's going to ask me to confirm my password, and I'll do so. And there we go, we have that. Now if you see though, it says never used. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to test that. So if I clear my console, my terminal, you can run SSH t, and where you want to test it, we're going to test git at github.com. If you do that, you should see, well, I'm sorry, I didn't put a space there. If you do that, yeah, you'll see this, and if you get this message, then you know it is actually correctly working. Now it says permanently added the RSA host key for that IP address, and so on, and then you successfully authenticated. And that is the correct message. Once you have that, you are good to go. Your SSH key is all set up. So if I refresh this now, yeah, it's still, yeah, there it goes. Last used within the last day. So, which you guys can't see that. You can see it, so it'll tell you that you've used it there. Alright, I'm just going to go back now to my directory on GitHub. So, on GitHub, what is Git really? Well, Git, like I said, is a version control system, and basically think of this. If you've ever been working on a project and you've, say you've been writing a lot of code, it's really, really big, and you know, you hit a point where you're like, oh, okay, I've messed up and I need to go back to a previous point where it was working. Then you start hitting Control Z, or, you know, undo. You keep going undo, 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 and over and over and over. And a lot of times that can actually work, assuming the editor you're using has a large enough history of your actions, but that's really, really tedious and it's bad practice. So one of the benefits of Git, of version control, is what I was just saying. Instead of doing all those undos, you can simply revert back to your working stage, or your working point of the project. So so what we can do is, if you like, you can actually on your GitHub, you can create it with their system, or you can do it through the command line like I am going to show you. So I'm going to go back to my home directory and I'm going to make a directory called git, let's say get started. Yeah. So I'm going to make that directory, and now I'm going to cd into it, and now we will begin the git command. So the first one I'm going to teach you guys is the initialization. So all the git commands are going to start with the word git, because we have installed git on our system, and the first one here is init. So what init does, if you run it, it initializes a git repository in whatever your current working directory is. So if I enlist right now, you'll see it has created a hidden directory called .git. If we go into that, you can see if I enlist there, it's got a few other things. The main things we are going to really care about, and really we're not, I'm not going to go into detail on it, but it's a config. So if you look at the config, it doesn't have a whole lot in it, but you can pretty much tell what these things are. Mainly it's the repository format version, but really these things you're not going to change very often, but it does let you know that you have actually started something with your git init command. So let's go back to the previous directory, and I'm going to clear it. So we've initialized it, but what does that do? Well, now that we've initialized that, we need to make some changes. So the first thing I might want to do is add a README file. A README is basically what tells your users what your repository is about, what you're doing in your project, and so on. So I'm going to create a new file called readme.md because it's a markdown file. And in that, I'm just going to say, getting started with Git. Alright. And now I'm going to write that and quit. So now I've got the readme.md file. So we've created that. Now, if you're with Git, you can tell what stage you're in with certain commands. So the different stages are, you could have, currently, if you run git status, you can see it will tell you you're on branch master, some other stuff that doesn't make sense, untracked files, and it will say readme.md here in red text. Now this is basically saying that readme is untracked, and it tells you use git add. So what it's saying is you have a file that hasn't been added to the staging area. So if I were to commit this, which means if I were basically to publish this change, this newer kind of version of my project, then this wouldn't be with it, and actually Git won't allow you to make that kind of commit. I will go through this command later, but if I tried to commit right now, it's going to tell me untracked file. You nothing added to commit, but untracked files present. So so what we need to do is we need to add the files that we have changed, and that could be creating a file, editing a file, removing a file, like deleting it. It can be any of those. So I've created a new file, and I would like to add that. So I can add git add readme. And now, if I run git status, this will show me our current status. And now you can see it's in green, and it's a new file, readme.md. Basically, after you've added your files, you're ready to make commits. So a commit, this is, as I said before, this is kind of like, publishing or posting your, kind of what you're at the moment. So we can run git commit, and then we also need to supply it with a message, a commit message. If we just run git commit, it will actually open up a little editor and have us type in the message, but it's easier to use -n or -n, and then string, a double quote, and the string that you want to represent your message. So I'm just going to say readme added. Makes sense. If I do that, you'll see it says one file changed, one insertion, and so on. So now if we run git status, it's going to say nothing to commit, working branch, or working directory clean. So that means we're ready to push. Now a push is basically where I've made these changes, I've committed them on my local machine, but online they haven't done anything. In fact, online, since I haven't pushed at all, this repository doesn't even show up on my account. So how do we push? Well, first, since this is a new repository, we're going to need to create a remote. So if you do git remote right now, nothing happens. That's because we do not have any remotes. So we need to say git remote add, and I'm going to add, I'll call it origin, which is very common, as you will see, and then a string in double quotes of the URL. So in this case, it's going to be github.com/my username / the name of the repository. So this will be getstarted.git. Okay, hit enter. Now it's added that remote. You can tell because if I run git remote, it will list origin there as one of my remotes. Now this allows us to push to it. So to push our initial version of this to our GitHub repository, we'll say git push, and then the syntax of it is what remote you're pushing to, and then the branch. I'll get on to branches later, but for now we're just going to say master. And this will prompt you for username and password. Okay, and this is not found. Okay, yeah, this is, you sometimes run into this issue where you can actually, it will actually create the repository for you, and sometimes you have to create it on your own here. So if we go to github.com, we can click the plus up here, click new repository, repository name, get started, and I'm just going to make it public, no description. Alright. Okay, so you can see the URL is exactly as I had it before. So if I return to my terminal and run that same command again, there we go, and it will tell you that it is wrote those objects and all successfully, and so on. So now if we return to our browser, and I'm just going to refresh the page, you should see now my readme file has showed up, and on GitHub it will actually display readme files on the same page as your repository. So now that we know that's working, I'm going to explain those commands a little bit more. So this command, let me put that down a few spaces so you can see it. Okay, so this command, like I said, it's git push, and then the remote that you would like to push to, followed by the branch. Now, master is a branch that comes by default with your with Git. So branches, the way they work is you've always got a master branch. So a master branch is kind of like you've got, you know, one long stream here going, and it's your initial version of the project. Now, say later you think, oh hey, I'm writing this text editor. What if I would like to add I don't know, some cool syntax highlighting for just C++ or just for Python? Then you can make a new branch with Git using a command such as this. So like syntax highlighting, misspelled highlighting, but you get the point. Um, and you can create these new branches, and then you can work on them, and you can make changes. You can commit those changes, and so on, and make pushes like that. Now, the benefit of this is a lot of the different things. It depends on how you set up your project. So, one of the obvious things people can do is make different versions. So, which is what I'm going to go through sort of with you guys. And so, say you're going through versions. So you have your initial version, your version 1, and then later you want to that's sort of stable. You've released that, but you want to update it. So you create a new branch, which makes a complete copy of that one, and you call it branch 2 or version 2. So your version 2, you can make all your changes and so on, and then if you're happy with that, you can release that. You can do that. Now you make a version 3, and say version 3 doesn't work out so well, so you need to revert back to your last stable version, which was version 2. So you go back to version 2, and you can completely get rid of version 3 if you would like. You can delete that branch. So that's kind of cool. And like I said, with special features that you might come up with for your project, you can also create new branches for those. And you can also dedicate branches. Say if you're working on a team, maybe you have one team that's working on like a server, one team that's working on documentation writing, all that kind of cool stuff. Each team can work on their part. So say you've got 4 teams, and one of them finishes, another one finishes. Eventually, all of them finish. When they all finish, you can do what's called merging. So merging is when you have one branch, or you have 2 branches that you merge, and they join all of their changes from their parent. So if I have 2 branches from master, and I merge both of them to master, then it will basically combine all of my changes to the project. Now you might ask the question, well, what if I have files that conflict with each other and I try to merge? Well, that we're not going to get into, but basically Git will inform you of that, and it will be basically up to you to decide which parts go and which parts stay. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to do some more stuff. Also, stay tuned for near the end of the stream. I'm going to be going over some neat little tricks with, well, not very many, but some little tricks with Git that I personally use. So, so what I want to do, maybe I want to, first I want to create a new branch. So I'll say Git branch chapter 1. We're going to make this, say it's a book. Now we've created a new branch, but we haven't actually moved into it. So if we look at Git branch right now, it's going to list all of our branches, and you can see master is the one that's selected, not chapter 1. So the way you switch to a different branch is Git checkout. So we want to switch to chapter 1, and you'll see it says switch to branch chapter 1. So now we can make our changes. So say I want to create a new file. See chapter 1 text. I don't know, I'm really creative with my names tonight. I'll say this is chapter 1 text. Alright. Now I can look at Git status, and you'll see that I need to add chapter 1 text to it. And let's pretend we have a lot of files, and if we did, instead of having to type the name of every single one of them, we can use an asterisk, and that will add all the files. So now if we run git status, you'll see that it has indeed added that file. So I'm ready for a commit. Say chapter 1 text. Okay. Now if I'm ready to if I am ready to push this, then what I would do is git push the remote we would like to push to, just origin, and then the branch. Now in this case, we're on chapter 1, not master. So I want to type chapter 1, hit enter, and here we go. It did not prompt me for my login this time because of one of the tricks that I'm going to show you guys later, which is a configuration setting. So it has pushed that to that branch. Now if we go to our GitHub here, let's zoom in a little bit more, and if we simply refresh this page, or actually we won't even have to refresh it, you can see it's already created that branch. You can switch which branch you're on. So if we look, we're on master right now, and there's only one file, readme.md. But if we switch to the chapter 1 branch, then you'll notice there are now two files, chapter 1 text and the readme. So now what do we do? Well, let's create some more branches. Okay. So if I want to create, this is a neat little trick. You can actually create a new branch and check out into it at the same time by running git checkout b, and then of course the name of your branch. Make sure you guys can see this. So I'll run git checkout with the b flag and the name of my branch. So maybe it's chapter 2. Now then, if we list, you'll see it still has our chapter 1 text. Why is this? That's because we created the branch from within the chapter 1. So if I change to the master branch and list, you'll see it's only one file. There's only one file on that branch. However, if we create a new branch, so git branch, say it's chapter 3, and then we check out that branch, you'll see it still only has readme. So whatever branch you're currently on is the one that it copies whenever you create a new branch. So I'm just going to check out chapter 2, and the chapter 3 I created is kind of bad because I copied it from the master branch, so I would like to delete it. So the way you do that is git branch, and then you supply the D flag and the name of the branch you would like to delete. So chapter 3. I can tell that I deleted it right now because if I run git branch, it'll list all of the branches that I currently have, and we're on chapter 2. So now if I have the chapter 1 text, maybe I'm in chapter 2, like as if this were a book. Say I'm going through a programming book, and each chapter you edit certain files and you create new files. So say in chapter 2 we create a new file, something like this. Alright, chapter 2 file, and now if we run git status, you can see there's that. But say we also edit the chapter 1 text. So if we do that, Let's say edit made in chapter 2, and then let's write it and quit. So now if I run git status, you'll see it has told us that we've modified that file and we have created a new one. So if I add all, then run git status, it will have those highlighted in green. So I'm going to make a commit, and I'll say chapter 2. Now I want to push origin chapter 2. Okay, so now let's look at our repository. We can go to chapter 2 here. Okay, and you can see all three of our files. Alright, so what are we going to do next? Well, let's say there's only, 2 chapters of a branch like this, and we want to merge them. So we're ready. So we finished the book or finished whatever project we're on, and we would like to just merge all these things together because we're done creating them all. So I can do this if I move back to the master branch, and before I actually do the merging, I would like to show you guys a cool little thing. So if we run git log, there's quite a few flags if you want to look really nice, but decorate, and graph. So if we run this command, this is git log. This is going to show us all of the whoops, misspelled yeah, each of these are supposed to have 2 dashes. Yeah. So git log is going to show us, of course, log. And all of these flags are just kind of some pretty printing things. If we run that, you can see it tells us all of these changes here. So readme was added. That was our message. Chapter 1 text, chapter 2. These are our commits. It tells you what branch it's on. So this is on master. It's chapter 1, chapter 2. So that's a useful command. Now so we're currently on the master branch, and say first we just want to merge chapter 1. So chapter 1 is our most stable or something. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run git merge with chapter 1. So if we run that, you'll see chapter 1 still exists. However, if you remember in our master, initially it only had the readme file. So if you list right now, it now has chapter 1 text as well. And if you look at that, it's just going to say the same thing that chapter 1's text did. This is chapter 1 text. However, so now that we've done the merging, we can also get rid of that branch if we would like. You don't necessarily have to, so we can delete that branch. So if I look now, there's only 2 branches, and now say later on down the road I would like to merge with chapter 2. Now if you remember right, in chapter 2 we edited the chapter 1 text file and we added a line. So now I'm going to merge chapter 2 and you'll see it's told us that, it's updated them. Now if in this, now it has the chapter 2 file as well. Now let's look at chapter 1 text. You'll see it has added that line, so it made the insertion. Now what I was talking about earlier, the conflicts, say in chapter 1 we had that line of text there like we did, but in chapter 2 maybe we deleted that line. Then if you try to merge them, then you can have conflicts like that. So if you were trying to merge chapter 1 with chapter 2. Now if you merge chapter 1 and then you merge chapter 2, then chapter 2 will overwrite that. So anyway, so we know that has all been there. So now I can go ahead and get rid of the chapter 2 branch. So now we're back to only a master branch. And you can see this has all updated on our repository if you refresh. So now if I go to master, oh, I'm sorry. I never pushed. Yeah, so if you run git stats, it's going to tell you there's nothing to commit, but we do need to push that. So okay, so there we go. We have our chapter 1 and chapter 2 files. And that is basically it. There's not a whole lot more of the basics to cover, and I know this is quite a lot really to take in at one time, but I've also listed some resources in the description below. There's more. There's a really great website is the following. It is getscm.com/book. And you can go through this. This has a lot more advanced, it goes more in detail, in depth with the git commands and what you can do, especially as far as branching and merging goes. But that's pretty much it for the basics. So if you'd like to stick around, I'm also going to show some basic commands with git, or some basic tricks rather. The first of which is not really a trick. It's something I should have showed you at the beginning of this video, and that was some configuration settings. So if we can run git config and then pass in 2 hyphens. Let me put this down a few lines so you can see it. Global. So global is going to change this configuration for all of our projects, our future repositories as well, and we can change the user.name to whatever our name is, of course. So mine is Zachary King, and then we can do the same thing for our email. And I misspelled global, so it gave me that little help message. It thinks I need help. I probably do. Alright, cool. So we've configured that, and now we've got that set up, and you can actually look at all of your configuration settings using git config list, so you can see all of this. Now this is one of the little tricks that I wanted to show you. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Is your credential helper. So you can set this by doing was it, if I remember, git config. This was one of my tricks. Let me refer back to that. Oh yeah. So we still want the global flag, of course, and then it's just credential.helper. So it's the same as you can see up there, and you can set that to cache. So what this is going to do is every time it asks for your user credentials, your login, your username and password when you're, say, doing a push, then it will actually cache those credentials, and you don't have to enter it, for the next, few minutes. If you make another push or something that requires your credentials, then it's going to pull from that cached credentials. It's not going to prompt you, so it saves you a little bit of time. And the other thing that I want to show you guys was, if you're using Linux, you can go to your home directory and you can actually edit your I will list it first. So if you list all, then you can see there's a bash profile and bash rc, and if you're not aware of these, you can find out more about them. But basically, bash rc is a file that will load every time I open the terminal. So we can put some pretty useful stuff in there. You can see I've got some aliases for Python. This was just one I created recently. So what I have done is you can write bash functions for all of your or most of your git commands. So instead of typing out those long git commands, you can just have these really short ones. So I've created a function like gcom for committing, and if you don't know much about bash scripting, you can find all kinds of resources online, but basically this $1 is the first argument that's passed to this. So it's the same thing as writing this line, myself git commit -n, and then whatever I want my message to be, and then gstat is get status, gpush pushes origin to master. That's of course one that I couldn't always use because I'm not always on that branch, but you can change these, you can create your own. Of course, this was just an idea that I had. You can shorten the time, especially for ones like glog, the log command I showed you guys, because I really like having these 4 arguments because it looks really nice. But instead of having to type all of that out every single time, all I have to type is glog. And gcheck is going to check out whatever parameter I pass to it, or argument rather. And the same for gbran, for gbranch. gbview is going to list all my branches and so on. So you guys can create your own functions. You can copy these that I have, tweak them, whatever you want. But a good idea is to edit these in your bash rc, and if you would like to test them, of course you're going to have to close your current terminal and open a new one in order for the effects to take place. Now this is pretty much it. These were just some neat little tricks that I had. You guys can of course leave more in the comments below, ones that I didn't mention or that it may not have even been aware of. You can also ask me any questions. Feel free to share this video. I would especially enjoy that. And yeah, so I'm gonna hang around and clean up the project that I just created, and you guys can ask any questions. So, I guess that is it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I hope you've taken something out of this GitHub sort of getting started video, and I'll see you guys next time.